there everyone, it's Hannah Rose here from Briar Patch ASMR, and we are going on to Chapter 5 of Dulcie's Taste of Magic. Let's get into it. Dulcie hovered outside the home tree. She was trying to figure out which way to go. Eggs, 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 she muttered to herself. Fresh eggs were delivered to her kitchen every morning. Dulcie just used them. She didn't know anything about getting them. Where did egg-collecting fairies go? She felt a little embarrassed admitting it, but she had no idea. I have to find an egg collector, Dulcie thought, and follow her, just like I did Maisie. She hurried to the home tree lobby. She sat down on the toadstool chair and pretended to relax. One by one, fairies and sparrowmen fluttered past. Half an hour went by before Dulcie spied Colette, an egg-collecting talent fairy. She was carrying a cushioned basket half her size. "She's collecting eggs! Right now!" Dulcie said. Dulcie trailed Colette. Every time Colette stopped, Dulcie ducked behind a leaf. Every time Colette flew, so did Dulcie. Finally, Colette came to the dairy barn, where the dairy mice lived. She flew a little beyond that to a grove of trees. Dulcie followed. "I never knew these were here," Dulcie whispered. The trees were saplings, just 4 feet tall. They were covered with fluffy white blossoms and stood in a semicircle. Robins twittered all around. Colette flew among them. She paused by a nest filled with eggs and put her ear close to one. Even Dulcie knew that fairies used only empty eggs. They were eggs that wouldn't hatch. "She's listening for baby chicks," Dulcie said to herself. Colette lifted a pale blue egg into her basket. Dulcie had used robin's eggs in lots of her recipes. They made delicious cakes and cookies. Then Colette pulled a balloon carrier from behind a tall fern. She unwound the cord from the anchor root. Fairy dust-filled balloons lifted the carrier high off the ground. Colette carefully pushed 2 more eggs into the balloon carrier. Pulling the carrier, she flew towards the home tree. Dulcie now knew which nest she had to go for the empty eggs, but she wanted to check on the other ones. She flew to another tree and peered inside the nest. 4 blue eggs were nestled close. Cracks lined each shell. Tap, tap, tap. The babies were breaking through. One by one they poked their way out. Peep, peep. They shook their wet feathers. In a flash, the mama robin flew over. Dulcie shook her head in wonder. Just think, all this had been happening right in Pixie Hollow, and she had never known. Smiling and thinking of the tiny birds, Dulcie picked up an empty egg. She could barely get her arms all the way around it. She had to peek around the side of the egg as she flew. Once she almost bumped into a blueberry bush. Then she saw a group of fairies flying nearby. She darted behind a leaf and waited for them to pass. Before long, Dulcie poked her head into the kitchen. It was empty. Quickly she hid the egg with the flour. Then she hurried to her room and took out the recipe. There in bold symbols was more writing. 5 teacups sugar. Her next task, to get the sugar. Dulcie thought for a long moment. Sugar came from sugarcane. And wasn't there a sugarcane field near Cavendish Stream? She wasn't sure, but she hadn't seen a sign when she was circling that morning. Sweet field. That could be it. Away Dulcie flew. This time, she didn't feel strange leaving the home tree, at least not as strange. Dulcie soon spied Sweetfield, which was full of sugarcane. Fairies and sparrowmen flitted all around. Dulcie ducked behind a big tree root. "I was right," she said happily. Some fairies, wielding axes, chopped at the sugarcane. Others pushed a big round stone over the fallen cane, squeezing out the sugary juice. 2 sparrowmen boiled the juice in huge pots, turning it into a sticky brown mountain of sugar. 2 more fairies shoveled the sugar into giant barrels. Then they rolled the barrels into the bottom of a hollow tree. All I have to do is borrow 1 barrel, Dulcie thought. That should be more than 5 teacups. Piece of cake. She waited for a fairy named Ava to leave the hollow tree. Then she sneaked inside. The place was filled with barrels. But then another fairy brought in 1 more. The barrel rolled to a stop. It was so close to Dulcie that it pinned her wing against the wall. She was stuck. She wriggled this way and that, and it didn't make a difference. She couldn't get free. Dulcie groaned. She'd have to call out for help. And she wouldn't be able to take a barrel. Not now. All the fairies would know. Instead, she scooped up handfuls of sugar and put them in her apron pockets. "Hello?" she called out. "Anyone there?" "Dulcie?" Ava flew over. "What are you doing here?" "Oh, just taking in some sights. You know, I'm on vacation." She pointed at her wing. "Do you think you could help?" She hoped her pockets weren't bulging too much. Ava moved the barrel. "Come back and visit any time, Dulcie." Dulcie smiled. Now that she knew exactly how to get to Sweetfield, maybe she would. When Dulcie returned to her room, she checked the ancient recipe again. The next ingredient was waiting for her. 4 drops vanilla. Dulcie loved vanilla, but she didn't have a clue where it came from. Then she remembered the book she'd borrowed from the library, The History of Neverland. She began to flip through the pages. Maybe there was something about long ago fairies first finding vanilla. She stopped at page 327. The entry read, "Fairies explored the vanilla orchards." Dulcie read on. Vanilla came from orchid plants. Now she knew what to do. Vanilla, chocolate, nuts, berries. One by one the ingredients appeared on the parchment, and one by one Dulcie found them with the help of her books. With each trip she grew a little bolder, a little more sure of herself. By the time she found the almond orchard, Dulcie felt as if she'd visited every part of Pixie Hollow, and she'd seen so many different talents at work. She watched as the tree-picking talents used hacksaws to remove almond fruits from a tree. They wore helmets made of walnut shells to protect their heads, and their arms looked strong from carrying heavy nuts and fruit. Dulcie realized that many of the fruit fairies did difficult, even dangerous work, but they seemed to love it as much as she loved working in the kitchen. After that trip, she sat on her bed to rest. Another ingredient had shown up. She translated each leaf symbol. "Oh!" Dulcie caught her breath. The words read, 10 drops sweet syrup from the creeping treacle vine. And that is it for Chapter 5. I will have Chapter 6 up very soon. See you then.